For exclusive content that Shakaama offers, join us over at Patreon as supporter of the Shakaama Live Show. That's video content you won't see on YouTube that can help you grow and maintain your wealth, financial education wrapped up in plain English, and video series of interesting and thought-provoking topics. Join us at bit.ly/PatronShack. It's the first link in the information box. Welcome to my channel. My name is Shakaama. Trump, Hillary, Bernie, Cruz. How much is the news that you watch dedicated to just this campaign? In each segment that they do a news piece, that they do a political campaign piece on, they take out a different segment of the campaign, make it a topic, and do an entire segment on it. So the other night I went to my room and fired up my local news talk radio, and lo and behold, they were talking about actual news. I don't always sleep in my bedroom. Sometimes I sleep in the den next to my computer. It keeps me warm. But then I started thinking, this is just more of the babyfication of the United States. We have to keep you distracted. And this reality TV show that we call a presidential campaign, this is what they're distracting you with right now. Tell me, what is going on in the economy right now? What kind of job rate do we have right now? How's the big business sector in the United States right now? Do you know the answer to any of those questions? Anything? What was the latest proclamation from the Federal Reserve? Do you know that? This is stuff that's actually important. Trust me when I say nothing Hillary Clinton says is important, nothing Bernie Sanders says is important, nothing Trump says is important, nothing, what was the other guy? I keep wanting to say Rubio. His name is not Rubio. Ted Cruz. Nothing Ted Cruz says is important. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people who think all white people look alike. And if you put them side by side, Ted Cruz and Rubio look just alike. They even sound alike. And they both have Spanish names. So how am I supposed to distinguish them apart? One's a Canadian and one's a Mexican, right? Something like that. But one's a Canadian Mexican and one's a Mexican Mexican. It's all a distraction to keep you away from actually being riled up and doing something about the actual news. And then, of course, they beat you into a frenzy over this. Trump, Hillary, Bernie. How in the heck would the United States entertain a communist and a socialist as running for president? They should be thrown in jail. Why in the heck would they be running for president? And I'm not even talking about Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. I mean, a criminal, an actual criminal, a red-blooded criminal. She should be tried, not running for president. How are you people entertaining her as an actual presidential candidate? That makes no sense. You are so distracted. You are so caught up in the trees that you're not calling for her to be put on trial. I mean, writing your senator, writing your congressman, writing the president, writing the Department of Justice. I mean, just flooding them with letters and phone calls and emails and texts. How are you not doing this? I don't get it. How stupid are you? If you're not doing that, you're stupid. Do I do it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I have been doing this for about a year now, for the better part of a year. If you're not calling for her ouster, for her trial, you are stupid. And I don't mean just a little bit stupid. I mean, you are absolutely stupid. And I would say you're complacent with a criminal. This is not conjecture. This is not opinion. She should be tried. The thing that she did is the sort of thing that world wars are started over. And I would say that the World War has already started. It's just that it's not being televised. It's just that it's not being called a world war. But there's already a world war going on if you actually pay attention, right? And I'm not talking about economically. I mean people dying in the streets, world war. She should be tried. And you women are talking about, we need to vote a woman. She's a criminal. What are you talking about? Woman, power, what feminist, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. You're stupid. Stupid. What does stupid means? When I have given you the information and you ignore it and you continue on, that means you are stupid. You are incapable of intelligent thought. You have the information. She should be tried for treason against the United States. You are trying to select her as president? And you have a communist running? A communist, a full-fledged communist. None of this flowery, politically correct language that Bernie Sanders is a democratic. He's a communist. He has said it over and over. We need to have equal pay for everybody. Equal wealth for everybody. And you're clapping. Get out of the United States. Get out of the United States. We do not need you here. That is not this country. That's communism. That is an enemy to the state. He would have been tried for treason too. And all of you who are complacent with him would be extradited too. I want to make excuses for you and say, well, all of this just crept up on you, but it didn't. It didn't creep up on you. And black people, oh my God, let's support Bernie Sanders. He was in the civil rights movement. So were the Jews who met the NAACP so that they could keep tabs on black people, and they were behind the KKK, they were behind the slave trade, and they were behind everything racist in the United States. What part don't you get? Well, they're nice people. They were in the civil rights movement. You know who else was in the civil rights movement? Bird. Do you know your history? Are you intelligent at all? And what's ironic is, everybody wants to say, Trump is racist. You will judge a tree by its fruits, right? Okay, so if Trump were actually racist, and that's the wrong word anyway, so I'm not going to even entertain the word on that basis. If you're trying to say that Trump is a bigot, number one, you're stupid. You're an ignoramus. You're an imbecile. You're a child. Point blank. Right off the top, your head is chopped off. You don't even have a head. But let's continue down the path. Trump hires Mexicans. Trump hires black people. Trump hires Eastern Europeans. Trump hires Asians. Oh, and I don't mean that they're all in construction. I mean VP, CEO of this corporation, COO of that corporation, CFO of this corporation. Trump. So while you stupid, ignoramus black people, Mexican people, just stupid, just dumb, and white people, stupid liberals. Oh, I even had a guy on Facebook say, Trump doesn't know the economy. You are a fool. That's even worse than stupid. Stupid sort of denotes that there is some semblance of brain malfunction. A fool is, even while watching the car wreck, denies that a car wreck is happening. That's a fool. Black man talking about Trump doesn't know economy. I would never listen to Trump about economy. Really? Really, Negro? Just so stupid. And I just cannot stand it. I just cannot tolerate it. How are you an adult? How have you not accidentally killed yourself? You will judge a tree by its fruit. I don't care if he goes back to the clubs and says, oh, I hate Negroes, they're terrible. But then pays them $1 million to be VP of this, CEO of that. Racism is an action. He cannot be racist. Cannot. By definition, he's not a racist. That goes for you stupid Mexican people too. You're not a race anyway. But let's go by culture. Okay. Latino culture. He's a Latino culture racist, which is not even a part of the definition. So then you have to step down to bigotry. Is he a bigot? No. I've never heard him be a bigot. In the absence of any evidence, you cannot assume that he's... Now, who said he was a racist? The Democrats and the Republicans. Now, why is he saying that? Why are they saying that? Because Trump is reaching out to black people and Spanish people and Mexican people. There was an early news report that said Trump may indeed swoop in and take the entire black vote, and the Democrats are scared to death of that. Why is that? Because Trump has been in the black circle forever, from day one. I dare say Trump opened, maybe not the first, but he opened the doorway for showing blacks in power. That is, black CEOs, black CFOs, black VPs, black presidents in charge of billion-dollar corporations. Trump. That's Trump. That's who we're talking about, black people. That's who we're talking about. Well, he's not really Republican. I'm sorry to tell you Republicans, but neither are your establishment Republicans. In fact, I've already said many times that your establishment Republicans aren't Republican at all. They're actually Democrats who came over into the party to take over the party. In fact, I would dare say that probably 50% of your party is not actually Republican. And more to the point, everybody in charge of the Republican Party is not Republican and is nowhere near a conservative. All establishment Republicans are not conservative, not even remotely. And I'm not even talking about libertarian conservative. I'm talking about just plain old, let a man be what he should conservative. No lesser government, no lower taxes, because no taxes would be libertarian. Shoestring government would be libertarian. I'm talking about just plain conservative, limited government, limited taxes, less regulation. Libertarian is no regulations, but create a judicial system that would punish you if you did wrongdoing and you could not buy into the judicial system as they have. This is why the quote-unquote establishment, which the word establishment in politics now means very openly Democrats and Republicans. Establishment. And they call any fringe of either side of the party lunatics. Crazy. Insane. Fringe. That means a Democrat who actually is a Democrat throwback from all the way back to the 30s or something like that is called a lunatic. And what's funny is the people who call themselves progressive are not fringe. They're not Democrats they're not throwback Democrats all the way back to like the 30s and stuff. They're just communists. They're just quote unquote socialists. I mean, they're blatantly socialists. The Young Turks, completely look at any of their stuff. It's all communists/socialists. All of it. They are not Democrats. They have nothing in common with the word Democrats, just as the people who are running the party for the Republicans are not actually Republican. They're nowhere near conservative. But the news doesn't tell you anything about politics. They don't say what is actually going on in Washington. What's the latest news that you heard from Washington? Do you know anything? How's the Supreme Court Justice nomination going on? Do you know anything about it? Do you? No? What about the budget? You heard anything about that lately? No? My Twitter is blowing. Literally, it scrolls by at breakneck speed, only talking about the campaign. And you have morons on both sides beating each other up, and the police stepping in and arresting people who dare say anything to the candidates. Now, it used to be that the candidates went around to your city to try and convince you to vote for them. And that what was going on. And if you said no, they would simply leave and go, okay, maybe not. Now, if you say no, the police step in and arrest you, which is unconstitutional. I mean, it's like textbook case unconstitutional. The police. These are the people that a whole bunch of people say, oh, the police are here to protect us. Oh, you should respect the police. The police are arresting people who are speaking out against a politician. I mean, you can't get any more textbook unconstitutional than that. Well, he's disrupting the assembly. That's what political speech is. That's exactly what it means. Freedom of speech means disruption. That's what it means. You should not tell people to abort/murder their unborn child. We're going to arrest you for disruption. That's called political speech. Textbook. And the very notion that a policeman would step in at a private function. Private. It's a private function. It's not a public function. It's a function paid for by the campaign of the politician, who is a private citizen. It's not backed by the state, or it shouldn't be. It's not backed by the city. It's not backed by the county. It should not be at all. The Republican Party is a private party. It's not a public party. In fact, if they wanted to, they could kick you out. And there would be nothing you could say. And you couldn't take them to court. That the police step in to arrest people. And that the police are even there at a private function is unconstitutional. How about that? This is how far the country has completely gone off of the Constitution. And why is the Constitution important? Because that's what our country is based on. It's not based on how you feel. It's not based on how things should be. And what's ironic is all of the people that you're complaining about immigrating and coming here legally have to learn the Constitution. And I mean, they learn the Constitution very well because they are tested and they know more about the United States than your stupid children that you sent to public school, you bunch of peasants. You're a peasant, you don't even know. You're the peasantry and you don't even know it. That a real live peasant comes over here and knows more than you makes you lower than a peasant. This is what the country's based on, the Constitution. And why are you even thinking that, well, we shouldn't listen to the Constitution? Because the news has told you not to pay attention to the Constitution because the Constitution is old. In terms of countries, the United States is young. In terms of the Constitution as a document, it is young. A country is not redefined every 20 years, you morons. In fact, the observance of the document really doesn't even kick in until about 100 years so that people can understand what it's all about, right? Let's say you draft a constitution for your house, right? The first year, people still don't even know what the hell your home constitution is about. About year 10, people are just discovering all the ins and outs of your constitution. It's not until 100 years or so that your constitution has been practiced for so long that now it is a part of the system. So for people to say 200 years is too old, you're morons. You're idiots. Please leave the country. I'm being polite. And of course, and so we talk about racism, all that sort of stuff. Those people should leave the country too, because frankly, that's not what the country was founded on. And I know a bunch of whole moronic black people are going to say, they said we're 3/5 of a human being. No, that's not what it said. That's not what it said at all. But Farrakhan told me that's what. No, he's a moron. He's a moron, and I would say that to his face with all of his bow-tied bodyguards around. He's a moron. Tavis Smiley, moron. That is not what it meant. If it had said slaves are 100% of a man, it would have meant that slavery would have ended immediately and the South was not going to be a part of the United States. It's wheels within wheels within wheels. If it said slaves were 0% of a man, it would mean that the South would not be a part of the United States. Is your brain kicking in yet? So how do we get the South to be a part of the United States and yet slavery still continue to appease the South? We didn't say half of a man because the South would not be a part of the United States if we said half of a man. The South wanted its cake and they wanted to eat it too. For those of you who don't understand that saying, the cake is not something delicious and sweet. It is poison. Cake is the stuff that is left over after you have burned a fire. The charcoal that has burnt up, the wood that has burnt up, and even the charcoal has burnt up, and you scrape up the scrapings, that's called cake. I know they don't teach you this in English class, they don't teach you this in school, but that's what the saying is talking about. It's not talking about a delicious frosty thing that you have at a birthday party. It's talking about poison. So you can't scrape up your poison and eat it too, lest you kill your own self, right? And we are always assuming that people are smart enough not to kill themselves. So the saying is you cannot have your cake and eat it too, lest you are killing yourself. So you can't have 100% slaves be 100% man because they would be cease to exist as slaves and they would be men, right? You can't have them 0% because the South wouldn't tolerate that. You can't have them at 50% because the South still wouldn't tolerate that. So the compromise was 3/5. And you know what they were talking about 3/5? They were talking about counting slaves as population. They weren't talking about the spiritual notion of Africans. They weren't talking about the intellectual psyche of Africans. They weren't talking about the beautiful bodies of Africans. They weren't talking about the incapability of Africans creating the pyramids. That is not what they were talking about. They were talking about creating a document whereby to count slaves for population. Now, that the fact that you have a Louis Farrakhan, a Jesse Jackson, a Tavis Smiley, an Al Sharpton telling you that white people consider you 3/5 of a human means that they are liars. And they're playing you for fools. And what's really moronic is that you have gone and repeated this too. The KKK could not have done a better job than that psyop right there. Black people say they want to hear me speak. I don't think black people want to hear me speak. I really don't. Because I am going to destroy all of your little worship idols that you love in life here in the United States. The news treats you all like children. I'm here to destroy that. I'm here to destroy every remnant of babification in the United States. That includes women, that includes homosexuals, that includes black people, that includes Latino people. Viví en Perú y soy tu hermano también. No voy a tratarte como un bebé, okay? I don't care about your feelings either. I'm not going to treat you like a child. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's going to hurt because you want to hear something that's nice and jovial and happy and gay. The real word for gay, not the whole stupid homosexual crap. I'm not here to baby you. The news is not telling you the news. And I had somebody say, this story wasn't found in the mainstream media. And I'm just like, really? Really? Go to your safe space, because that's where you belong. You don't belong around an intellectual. And this is why you don't like me talking about religious stuff, because I'm going to tell you the truth about it. The Old Testament wasn't anything about the Jews. It was about the Sumerians. It was about the Africans. The black Africans who have been around for tens of thousands of years. Why do you have Old Testament stories carved into temples 10,000 years old? It had nothing to do with Jews. This entire Bible thing is a hoax. You don't want to hear that. Everybody says, we really appreciate. You don't appreciate the truth. Your entire life is a lie. You don't want to hear that. We celebrate Kwanzaa in our house. Kwanzaa, which was invented by a white person, that's what you celebrate? No, it comes from Africa. No, it doesn't. I lived in 3 different countries in Africa and studied their history in Africa. At no point did anybody talk about a Kwanzaa. It was invented by a white person to babyfy black people again. Oh, you don't want to celebrate Christmas? We're going to give you Kwanzaa. Clue phone, you're still celebrating Christmas because you're celebrating something at Christmas time. We're just going to call it Kwanzaa. There you go. There's the truth. Do you need a savior? Let me ask you this. Do you need a savior? Why do you need a savior? You were born, you grew up, you got married, you went off to work or opened up your business or whatever you did, and you lived happily ever after. What do you need saving from? Well, from our sins. Who told you you sinned? Outside of the church, who told you you sinned? Nobody did. It's an invention of the church to dominate you. And until you even understand what I just said, you're a fool. And that God came down to earth. God came down to earth, just earth. Out of the trillions and gazillions and quintillions of galaxies, which then means dodecadillion stars, which means Googleplex planets. He chose Earth to come to. You're a moron. And you know what? We can only see 1% of the universe through any telescope. Even if we point it in any direction, we can only see 1% of the universe. It is so vast that we can't even see beyond our 1. Even with the best, most powerful telescope that we have. This is how babyfied you all are. Such morons. Complete morons. And just now, science is just thinking, oh, there might be other dimensions other than the 3 that we have. And here's my postulation. Finally, when we invent something to actually perceive these other dimensions, you will find that we have a whole bunch of people, we'll call them aliens, finally saying, oh, finally you see us. We've been here from the beginning. Why did it take you so long? Why? Because the news is babyfying you. Now, this is assuming that the powers that be don't go into complete explosion mode or implosion mode and kill off the population to stop you from looking at these other dimensions and seeing these other beings. We are just now taking the baby steps of having somebody who actually says, oh, there could be other dimensions. And some scientists finally coming up with, you know what? I think we're actually 2-dimensional. We just don't know it. Just like the surface of the water, you know, when an oil slick happens, there's the little oil on the very surface of the water, and it looks like a whole bunch of colors. That's what scientists are saying that we are. We exist in this sort of 2 dimensions, and we can only perceive these 2 dimensions. We think it's 3 dimensions. But it's actually just 2 dimensions. We're on this just a plane of existence. Just one tiny plane of existence. And we think there might be other planes of existence. Where else have you heard of this? Well, you've heard it in fantasy and you've heard it in religion, but religion doesn't go into it. Why? Because they don't want you to really know about it. What does religion say? There's other planes of existence, but God keeps you from those planes of existence because those other planes of existence are really dangerous. There's all sorts of demons and goats and devils. You don't want to go into those other planes of existence. Now, how is it that they are already warning you about these other planes of existence? And scientists say, we think there's other dimensions. We now need to invent something to even be able to understand, perceive, see, touch, feel these other dimensions. You have been so babyfied by the mainstream media that you don't even want to think about stuff like this. I made a video talking about I believe humans are immortal, can be immortal. And I had everybody from their grandmother to Rush Limbaugh say I was crazy for even assuming that. But why do you really die? Mostly you die from disease. Mostly. Almost 99% of the... I'm not talking about you being shot. I'm talking about you dying, passing away. Mostly it's from disease. Disease is caused by a lack of proper nutrition. And when I say proper nutrition, I actually mean perfect nutrition. That means you have a micronutrient that you have not taken care of for 50 years. Suddenly, as if 50 years is a sudden thing, suddenly your body develops a disease and you manifest symptoms, but it's too late now because you have spent 50 years depleting the very last remnants of that macronutrient or micronutrient. And I said, if you have perfect nutrition, you cannot die. That sounds almost religious, doesn't it? But religion will say that, no, you don't need micronutrients. You need Jesus, who there is no evidence ever existed. And you say, no, it's all over the Bible. Or Plinius wrote about him. Or some stupid Roman philosopher wrote about. No, he did not. The church wrote about him. Nobody outside of the church wrote about him. Don't you think, unless the day was a whole bunch of people running around and performing miracles, don't you think that if somebody was feeding the sick, had thousands of people show up to hear him talk, heal the blind, heal the sick, heal the cripple, heal the blood woman with her period juice, grew legs, grew eyeballs, grew arms. They were mad because he did that on the Sabbath, and you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. Don't you think somebody other than people inside of the church and even Jews would be writing about this guy? Even the Romans didn't write about him. Not a single Roman outside of the church. Not a single one. There is zero evidence for him. What do you know about me? You know about me what I have told you about me. How do you know I didn't lie completely? That I don't speak 5 languages. That I haven't lived all over the world. That I didn't grow up rich. That I didn't have manservants, maidservants, chefs, gardeners, guards, mansions, meeting presidents, princes, kings, being invited over on national TV. How do you know all of that is not just a complete and utter lie? That I don't speak Japanese. I could have been faking it all. How do you know? And we're talking about 2,000 years, but I've shown you that it didn't happen 2,000 years ago. It was a monk who wrote the new Julian calendar who then predated it. The same monk that invented the calendar then predated the Bible to say that all of this happened 2,000 years ago. It didn't actually happen 2,000 years ago. A monk said it happened 2,000 years ago. A monk in the Catholic Church. And everybody, and I mean everybody, now takes it as gospel. as actual truth and actual fact. What's super ironic is that it took over 400 years for the Julian calendar to even catch on. The Egyptians, the ancient black Egyptians, had a perfect calendar, but the white people didn't want to go by that because they didn't want to be beholden to a black invention. Although they're still beholden to all sorts of black inventions, they just claim that white people invented it instead. And you can go look that up. That'll be in my Black History series for all of my patrons. You're being babyfied. And I don't just mean about politics. I mean you being babyfied. Just the entire system is treating you like children. Why don't you know about dimensions? Why don't you know that we can only see 1%, and it's probably not even 1%. It's probably 0.0000001%. And remember, percent adds 2 more zeros on. Why don't you know about this stuff? Your schools are terrible. There's nothing but corruption in the world. And this political campaign, I believe, is the most important thing right now that will usher in a new age. And I don't mean a new age for the better. I mean a new age to kick in a real push for the new world order to take control. We have made consignments to the United Nations now. Our sovereignty as a nation is all but over. The whole Pacific Trade Agreement, that is a consignment for multinational corporations to overrule Congress, overrule the Senate. Now, how in the world would Congress and the Senate give away their only power? Because the people who work in Congress, the people who work in the Senate, are already beholden to the multinational corporations. So of course they would sign on to give away their power, to give away their authority, to give away the sovereignty of the United States. And you have fools agreeing. Well, it's an option, and you don't want to be libertarian, or even worse, the people in charge of the Libertarian Party completely signing on to, oh yeah, we need free and open trade. No, that's not what this is about. This is complete power. Libertarians are so blinded by this doctrine of free trade that they're so foolishly agreeing to the complete sovereignty of a nation. The sovereignty of a nation also protects you and all of your individual rights. That's what sovereignty really does. It literally means that the Germans or the Chinese or the Russians can't come over here and say, hey, boy, you will from now on shine my shoes every morning. The sovereignty of a nation stops that. The whole doctrine of complete open borders, it only applies if everybody is completely equal. And I don't mean that they are equal, that they are perceived as equal. Blacks are completely equal to whites, right? But blacks are not perceived to be equal to whites. That's why we still have racism and bigotry and all that sort of stuff. You are babyfied, and this campaign is important, but it's a distraction. It's being treated as a reality show. You are so ignorant, so behind the progress that you really should. The whole progressives, that's a misnomer. What have you progressed? How has humanity marched forward under any of your doctrines or policy? None, not even a bit. In fact, we have gone backwards under any progressive policy. Count them up. Backwards. I'm blasting everybody, but it's the truth. And you know what? I'm rich enough to not care. How about that? I'm smart enough to not care about your feelings. None of them. But I care enough to tell you the truth. Can you imagine my children? I'll be sure to teach them how to fight, the girls included, because, can you imagine my children who have no filter at all? who would tell a teacher exactly how they are. I'll probably just homeschool my children anyway. That'll take care of that. That'll nip that in the bud. Can you imagine my children? No filter at all. No filter. I'm kind of no filter, but I still have a filter. Thank you so much. If you want to hear politics under 3 minutes, go to Shakaama Politics. It's a brand new channel that I make. Go over there, subscribe in droves. We can have discussions over there about everything. I'll just make little political videos. And this video was mainly to introduce you to my Shakaama Politics channel, because I don't want any more politics on this channel at all. So go over to Shakaama Politics. On the very latest video that you see up, just simply say, I'm here from the Shakaama live show, and I'm here to see your Shakaama Politics video. Go ahead and record them. All right? You don't have to pay for Patreon. It'll be over there. And I will do political investigation. We can talk about whatever as long as it concerns politics. I don't actually think racism includes politics. If you can convince me that it does, give me a good argument. And I don't mean politics does include racism. The end. No, I want a full argument, a full position, backing up, conclusion. Okay? Shakaama Politics. It's online already. Thank you for watching. I love all of you, even the racist people. And that's the wrong word. I keep saying it's the wrong word. Thank you.